As noted in the text, OmniFocus enables you to create hierarchically nested folders, projects, and actions. OmniFocus windows contain a fully customizable toolbar at the top. You can hide your sidebar, of course. You can sync with the server. You can click on the focus button, which allows you to see one project at a time. Quickly unfocus. It has a very quick search engine, which is handy when you've got thousands and thousands of tasks. Now you can save perspectives, which we'll talk about later, into the toolbar here, and you can associate your own graphical icons with it, so that's handy. I have a large collection of projects, several of which have icons associated with them, and I'll show you how I navigate them in a bit. Clicking on one of these perspective buttons loads the perspective in the current window. As noted, on the left here in this side pane, when you're in a project perspective, you see your project hierarchy. I find it quite handy when creating long documents to create a structure in OmniFocus that mimics the structure of the document. So you notice that the structure of the book here in the content folder is reflected in the structure here, and this maps onto the outline that I showed you earlier with respect to OmniOutliner. So we can drill down here to the chapter that we're working on, which is in part 1. The principle is manage, and here you see the various subsections of the manage project, the manage chapter, and I've got a general folder here for all kinds of miscellaneous tasks. The system here then is quite simple and systematic. For each chapter, you produce the outline and the OmniFocus project. In case this looks too complicated, please note that OmniFocus allows you to import OmniOutliner documents. So you can create your outline and then import it into OmniFocus and then move it to the right project, and you're ready to go. Now let's consider the center pane, which is right here. This contains the folders and the projects. So we can click on an entry here, and as I said, focus in on here if we like through the focus button, expand, etc. Now each task in OmniFocus has quite a few attributes that you can set or not set depending on what you want to achieve. So you can set your task here. You can provide a context, which we won't talk about. You can include some project planning information here. At least sometimes you want to include the due date. So if something is pressing, you put the due date in here, such as in a couple of days from now. And you can flag it using a shortcut or this flag symbol here. So then you can use a view, which you can define, for seeing all the items that are due or that are flagged and due. I find that quite handy. If the task happens to be something that needs to repeat, then you would put it in here. But in the context of writing a book, that's not, or a long document or a screencast or whatever, that doesn't typically happen. I'd like to drill down a little bit again just to embed this idea of structure here. Notice that this replicates the structure that we're currently working on in this book, that I'm currently working on, that you're listening to. Now, if you happen to be familiar with David Allen's Getting Things Done book, then you'll be familiar with the inbox, which is a place where you can add miscellaneous tasks that are unsorted. So they're available here. So here what you have essentially is a collection of perspectives and ways of viewing the information. Your task information, for instance, you've got a forecast view that's available that will actually, so if you're into viewing your projects by date, you want a calendar view, then you can use this forecast view, and it'll give you information about your subtasks. And it's also going to pull out information from whatever happens to be due in your calendar. Again, if you're familiar with David Allen's system, then you're familiar with his notion of context that you could use. Personally, I don't advocate using context. I feel that today's notion of context should be replaced by the notion of activities. I've argued that on the CogZest blog. But if you're a fan of getting things done, then you might want to use that. And there's also a review mode, which again is based on the Getting Things Done book.